Hi Peaches! In this video you will learn the whole plot of Resident Evil Village and some more interesting additional facts you didn't know about. Let's begin! 3 years ago, Ethan's wife Mia disappeared at the Baker house. He tried to find her, but without success. Then he received a letter in which she asked him to come get her. When he found her in Louisiana, she was infected by a special kind of mold. The source of the infection was a bioweapon that looked like a little girl called Evelyn. For a long time, he tried to find an antidote, and when he found it, he was able to treat his wife. Then his friend Chris Redfield and his soldiers came to their rescue and helped them escape. He then hid them in Eastern Europe, where they were trying to live a normal life as a regular family. Meanwhile, Mia gives birth to a cute baby Rose. However, she doesn't seem to be really trying to forget everything, cause she reads a creepy story to her 6-month child and says,
"There's nothing wrong with my memory."
Okay. Another family dinner turns into a real nightmare. Suddenly someone shoots Mia, armed men break into the house, Chris Redfield kills her, and without explanation takes the baby. After a while, Ethan awakes near the damaged truck that was transported the Winters family. He discovers the killed soldiers and the missing Mia and Rose. When Ethan tries to find his wife and child, he finds himself in a strange village among the mountains. In the village, he meets surviving residents who are hiding from terrible monsters called Lycans. He learns that they pray to the local goddess Mother Miranda, who has always protected them, but for some reason, she doesn't save them from those monsters. Unfortunately, Ethan couldn't save the residents, so they all die right in front of him. Except for one crazy granny who is hated by the whole village cause she looks like a psycho witch.
No, wait, where's Rose?
While wandering through the village, Ethan loses a few fingers but somehow gets to the castle. The first person on his way is a literally attractive man with a big hammer named Karl Heisenberg. He throws pieces of iron directly at Ethan and brazenly kidnaps him. When Ethan opens his eyes, he sees strange monsters led by Mother Miranda, by the way she calls them her children. This creepy doll belongs to Donna Beneviento, the mad doll maker. Uses Guy Salvatore Moreau. To the left of us is a 3-meter pretty vampire Alcina Dimitrescu, and to the right of us, a man with a hammer we've already met before, Karl Heisenberg. Oh, and a bunch of brainless Lycans behind them. After a long argument, Mother Miranda passes Ethan's fate to Heisenberg, who likes to play different games with his victim. However, Ethan escapes safely, or almost safely, and runs to Dimitrescu Castle. Near the castle, he meets a cute chubby guy, the Duke. He is a traveling merchant who appears throughout the game in different locations to purchase treasures found from Ethan, sell weapons, and upgrades to the main character. Strangely enough, he helps Ethan throughout the game not only as a merchant, but also by giving various tips and hints. The castle and the game itself, everything is according to the traditions of Resident Evil. I mean riddles everywhere. Soon, Ethan is attacked by 3 vampire daughters of Lady Dimitrescu. The entire theme of Resident Evil Village is based on Romanian folklore and vampire literature. First of all, Dimitrescu is a Romanian surname, and second, Alcina and her daughters resemble Count Dracula and his brides, who drank blood to maintain their youth, and so on. The sisters take him to their mother as fresh prey, but she doesn't like Ethan's blood. By the way, the sisters' names are Bella, Daniela, and Cassandra. I don't know which one is which, cause they are all similar. Anyway. The thing is that they are afraid of the cold, so Ethan quickly kills them one by one. A tall lady naturally goes berserk because of the death of her daughters, and despite Mother Miranda's orders not to touch Ethan, she decides to get rid of him. Soon, Ethan learns that they are not real vampires, but just a part of Miranda's experiments. When the ogre lady has grown up, it cannot fit into the doorways on her own castle. Let's help her a little. Oh gosh, no thanks, bye.
There you
she is still not coming. Just for a second. Hi. Oh, it's useless. Let's go further. Ethan finds a poisonous dagger called the Dagger of Death Flower, which was crafted to kill monsters and demons. However, Lady Vampire catches him, and when he plunges the dagger into her, she shows her true form of a creepy dragon or something. Brilliant. He lost the only daggers that can kill any monster. By the way, only Mother Miranda saw her in this fascinating form. While he's fighting with her, let's find out some interesting facts. Alcina Dimitrescu is very similar to the Hachishaku-sama from Japanese urban legend. Both have a pale appearance, long claws, and wear white hats. Also, she is immortal. A long time ago, she was infected with a genetically modified organism called Kadu. Because of that, she turned into a monster with regenerative abilities, being only 44 years old. Thus, she retained the appearance of that time, and her aging has stopped. However, due to a hereditary blood disease that she has had since birth, she must constantly consume human blood and flesh to prevent mutation. After killing the Big Tits vampire, Ethan finds a strange flask, and the crazy granny hints to him in riddles that the only way to save Rose is to defeat the four lords. After that, we meet the Duke again, who says that the flask we found is literally one of the 4 parts of his daughter. The thing is that Mother Miranda divided her into 4 parts and gave it to each of the lords. Sounds crazy, but the child is okay. And when we collect all the parts, she will become normal again. Let's talk about the lords. The first lord we've already killed, the Lady Dimitrescu. The second is a doll maker, Donna Beneviento. Donna's parents committed suicide when she was young, which caused her mental health problems. In addition, due to her disfigured part of the face, she isolated herself from people, communicating with them through her doll Angie made by her father. At some point, Donna was implanted with a Kadu and gained the ability to secrete a poison that could induce hallucinations in people, which she could control herself. As you can guess, Ethan inhaled the pollen of mold-infected flowers as soon as he set foot on her land. So Donna began to show him hallucinations of his wife. The Beneviento house is located on the top of the mountain. It is possible to get there only by elevator. In the basement, Ethan finds a flask next to the doll Angie. When he tries to take it, Donna turns off the light, after which all of Ethan's weapons disappear, along with the doll and the flask. The house is generally scary. There are dolls everywhere and some kind of disgusting baby. Donna finally shows up and orders her dolls to attack Ethan. All this ends with a game of hide and seek. Eventually he finds Angie 3 times, stabs her with a pair of scissors, and when the illusion breaks, he learns that he has been stabbing Donna herself all along. After the battle, Ethan gets a second flask with Rose's legs and gets out of this terrible house. The third lord is Salvatore Moreau. His appearance changed under the influence of Kadu, so he transformed into a monster with gills and a swim bladder. Also, because of the irregular cell division, he turns into a giant fish, and he can't control his transformation. When Ethan gets to him, he steals the third flask while Moreau is watching TV and puking. After that, he finally notices him. Moreau is ashamed of his appearance, but most of all, he is afraid of falling in the eyes of Mother Miranda, since she gave him the flask for safekeeping, but he didn't cope with his task. Even though he blocked the way out, Ethan was able to leave and finally got to the boat. In the pier, he is met by Chris Redfield, who, as usual, doesn't explain anything to Ethan, but saves his life from a giant fish. In the end, Ethan swims to the shore, and Moreau comes out of the water after him and tells him that the exit is underwater. However, he can no longer control his transformation, so he vomits again and turns into a fish. Soon, Ethan flushes the fish down the toilet, and after a few shots in its disgusting face, it bursts like a stinking soap bubble. After the fight, Ethan learns that Mother Miranda wants to use Rose as a whistle for her long-dead daughter. By the way, this is Kadu. Then the white noise on Moreau's TV turns into the Fourth Lord's crest, who's Heisenberg. He offers Ethan to go to his stronghold and get the Fourth Flask. Here he meets many different monsters and finally finds a flask left by Carl. He then says that first, he needs to put all the flasks on the altar and then they will meet each other. After Ethan puts all 4 flasks, a bridge rises from the ground and opens the road to the Heisenberg factory. This factory is a secret lab in which Heisenberg conducts experiments on implanting Kadu in people. When Ethan enters the building, he discovers that he secretly planned a rebellion against Miranda. At that moment, Carl himself appears and offers Ethan not to beat the dead horse, but stand on his side, and then use Rose's powers to defeat Miranda. Long story short, Heisenberg was one of the children Miranda abducted. After the Kadu parasite was implanted in him, he received supernatural abilities, powerful telekinesis of metal objects. However, he was forced to obey Mother Miranda for a long time against his will. Among the other lords, Heisenberg was the only one who held a grudge against her, due to her selfish desire to revive her daughter and the fact that Miranda's family is nothing more than experiments for her. Not wanting to use Rose as a weapon, Ethan refuses Heisenberg's offer, so he throws him to the lower level of the factory, where another creepy monster is waiting for him. A helicopter that doesn't fly. In the end, Ethan manages to escape, kills some monsters, and meets Heisenberg again. He mutates and turns into a pile of metal and throws Ethan away, telling him to never come back. As usual, our main character survives. Moreover, he meets Chris Redfield, who admits that he didn't kill Ethan's wife, since it wasn't her, but Miranda. She disguised herself as Mia and infiltrated the Winters' home. Her objective was clearly to kidnap Rose. Besides, the bullets didn't affect her, so she just mimicked a corpse. Then she revived herself in the truck, killed everyone on board, and took off with Rose. Therefore, Chris just wanted to finish the job he started, so he prepared a tank with explosives to blow this place sky high. Also, its material is nothing but some kind of metal, which Heisenberg cannot control. In the fight with Heisenberg, we learn that he has completely gone off the rails with the desire to take revenge on Miranda. So much so that he decided to use Rose to kill her and take Miranda's place. In the end, Carl Heisenberg was also killed. After that, Chris calls Ethan and asks not to go to Miranda alone. But suddenly Ethan hears Rose crying and puts the phone away. Naturally,
Rose?
it turned out to be a trap.
Mia?
Mia, or rather Miranda, appears in front of Ethan. She says that Rose is Evelyn's true form. By the way, Miranda thought of everything from the very beginning. She pretended to be a local witch and directed Ethan to become the killer of all the lords himself.
Fuck you, you crazy bitch!
She also forced him to collect all the flasks, cause none of the 4 lords were suitable as a whistle for her daughter, except for Rose.
She's my child, not yours!
In short, all this time, Ethan was just a lab rat for Miranda. Now she doesn't need him anymore, so she decides to kill him and finally start the ceremony of the resurrection of her child. After Ethan's death, we are starting to play for Chris Redfield, a former BSAA operator. He notices a BSAA helicopter heading straight to the village. It's strange to see them here, cause they discussed the incident at the Baker house. Despite this, he leads the Hound Wolf squad to search for a woman named Miranda who has targeted the Winters family. It's been 3 whole years since they have been working on the Kill the Damned Witch project. Did you believe? Oh, don't be so serious. Anyway, Chris is going to stop Miranda and save Rose. He manages to blow up Miranda's tentacles and get underground, where he finds an organism called Megamycete and meets a huge mutated dude. This time this guy was definitely killed. After the fight, he finds Miranda's lab, where he learns that all the lords were created only to become a whistle for Eva. However, they all had a defect, so they were unsuitable for that role. The last thing Chris found was Miranda's diary, but we will get to that later. Above all, he finds the real Mia locked in a cage. As it turned out, she was caught and used in Miranda's experiments.
Where is my husband?
Chris then tells her that Ethan died, so Mia decides to tell him the truth, which she has been trying to hide all this time. At that moment, the scene is transferred back to Ethan, who actually survived. He sees a vision in which Evelyn tells him who he really is. 3 years ago in Louisiana, the head of the Baker family, Jack, killed Ethan for real. The particles of the pathogen Evelyn completely took over him and restored the vital activity of Ethan's body. Since then, Ethan Winters has been a bioweapon and literally consisted of mold. That is why it was impossible to kill him. When Ethan wakes up, he finds himself in the Duke's carriage. Ethan asks him to take him to Miranda, but the Duke is already on his way. By the way, who is the Duke really? And why is he helping Ethan? To begin with, the Duke is most likely not the actual name of the character. In each localization, the Duke sounds not as a name, but as one of the noble titles. Perhaps in the past, the merchant served the rulers of these lands and held the position of a duke.
I am but a humble merchant.
The size of the duke gives us to understand that for sure Miranda implanted Kadu in this hero as well. It explains how the duke can quickly move between locations and climb into small rooms, which would seem impossible for a person of such dimensions. Even if so, it remains a mystery what prompted the Duke to side with a stranger and help him in every possible way to destroy Miranda's imaginary empire. Back to Ethan. The Duke tries to persuade him, cause his body is already falling apart, but Ethan refuses to give up all the way. He goes straight to Miranda, who is already conducting the ceremony of the resurrection of her daughter. It would seem that she managed to put Eva into Rose's body. She even began to lose strength, but it's not entirely clear whether she managed to do it or not. And here the last battle with her begins. Now back to Miranda's diary. In her diary, she writes that her daughter died 100 years ago from the Spanish flu. This whole time she was trying to find a way to bring her back to life, and finally, all that is left is to merge Rose with the Megamycete. The Megamycete is a black substance, or in other words fungal root, that Miranda found by accident in a cave when she tried to commit suicide after the death of her only daughter. It can absorb people's bodies and store their consciousness in itself. By the way, for people who are strong in body and mind, the Megamycete gives superhuman abilities, rapid regeneration, and all sorts of mutations. The mind of weak individuals of Megamycete completely subordinates itself, and the bodies of such people can be used for reproduction. Then Miranda realized that if it also keeps Eva's mind, she can resurrect her. So she began to call this organism the Black God and worship it. When she returned to the village, she implanted the villagers with mold from the Megamycete to control them and experiment on them. In the end, she experimented on hundreds of people and even created a parasite called Kadu to increase the efficiency of finding a whistle for her daughter. However, all her experiments failed. There were some, like Alcina, who were close to being perfect, but most of the subjects turned into Lycans. One day, an organization called the Connections approached Miranda and promised to help her, so she gave them some of the mold and Eva's DNA. But all they created was an exact copy of her daughter called Evelyn. However, thanks to them, she learned about the existence of Rose and realized that she is the perfect whistle for Eva. That's how it all started and ended. Come to think of it, Miranda killed many people just to resurrect only one. How selfish. After the fight, Ethan takes a crying Rose and notices that his life is also coming to an end. Even though Chris Redfield tries to save him, Ethan decides to sacrifice his life. He asks Chris to take care of his daughter, takes the detonator, and blows himself up along with Megamycete. Before the explosion, Chris manages to take Rose to a safe place, to her mother. He then confesses to Mia that he couldn't save Ethan. By the way, the soldier sent by BSAA turned out to be just a bioweapon, so Chris Redfield orders to go to the BSAA headquarters in Europe. Do you remember the fairy tale that Mia, or rather Miranda, told at the beginning of the game? Now we will find out the ending of this fairy tale. In short, a little girl ran out from her mother when they were picking berries in the forest. As a result, she got lost. Then the forest creatures appeared and began to give her gifts, which she took. When the girl met a horse, she took the mechanism, which she thought was another gift. The horse got angry, and all the creatures who helped her turned into a witch. The witch then told her that she had taken what wasn't her actually, and looked her in a mirror. In the end, her mother and father came to help the girl. While the father was fighting with the witch, the mother touched the mirror that broke because of her love. But the witch was too strong, so the father ordered the mother to run away. After that, the forest burned down along with the witch and the father. This fairy tale is called Village of Shadows. The girl who ran into the forest is supposed to be Rosemary Winters, who was abducted by Miranda and taken to the village. The 4 creatures she met on her way were similar to 4 lords. The girl meets them in the same order that Ethan Winters visits their territories. The girl's entrapment in the mirror is more like that Rose's body is divided into 4 parts and placed in flasks. And the ending, in which the father burns down along with the forest and the witch. It recalls how Ethan sacrificed himself so that Mia and Rose could escape. After the credits, we see a girl who finished reading this fairy tale herself. By the way, Miranda stopped at the moment when the witch appeared. Anyway, the girl is Rose Winters, who came to her father's grave on his birthday. But even here, Chris agents get to her. One of them calls her Evelyn, which infuriates her.
Don't you ever call me that again.
Whoa, it's just a joke, Rose.
I can show you things even Chris doesn't know I can do.
Rose then gets into the car and soon leaves the cemetery. But at the very last moment, the car stops and the main silhouette appears next to the passenger door. That's it. In the end, as usual, there are a lot of unanswered questions. Who was that man? Maybe Ethan wasn't actually dead. Or it's someone else. The agent's joke may also be true. What if Miranda managed to complete the ritual and put her daughter into Rose's body? I think we will find out all this in the next final part of Resident Evil, which is also called the Ethan Winters trilogy. Now is definitely the end. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss new videos coming soon. See you next game!